thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Face the Puck podcast, where we talk about the latest news and drama going on in the hockey world. My name is Juliana, and I share the spotlight with my boyfriend Preston. In this episode, we will analyze what happened in round 3 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs and predict what will happen in the Stanley Cup Final based on analytical insights. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, again, my name is Juliana, and I am here with Preston. For those of you who do not know, I am currently a business analyst and computer information systems major, using my skills to make insights and predictions on hockey statistics. So Preston, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself a little bit.
How are we doing, everybody? I'm glad to be back here on our second episode of the podcast. Really excited about this. I'm the hockey player of this podcast, so I will be giving the insights from a hockey player's perspective, as well as just general tips about the games and stuff like that. Well, she will be more on the analytical side, giving you the statistics and stuff like that. I'm really excited to be here. Let's get on with it.
Absolutely. So let's go into our first topic, which is let's talk about round 3. Specifically, what is going on with the refs? There has been a lot of inconsistent officiating, at least in round 3. So we'll go through the list here of what I marked down. Obviously, it's not every single penalty that was missed or BS, but it's just a little handful. So we got goalie interference when Point was shoved into Varlamov by an Islanders player. We have an uncalled high stick to Corey Perry. We have another uncalled penalty where Edmondson slammed William Carrier into the boards. Shea Weber was cross-checked by Nosek into the boards. McNabb punched Suzuki in the face. And finally, Kucherov was cross-checked by Mayfield in Game 6. So let's go back to the top and talk about that goalie interference. Back in when the Lightning were playing the Islanders, Point was shoved into Varlamov by Pelech. And unfortunately, the Islanders got the power play and immediately scored on it. You have any words on that?
Just a huge missed gaff. I mean, they say he had time to stop. He was going at such a high speed, and as well as a shove on the back, he definitely did not have time to stop. So I just did blatant miscall there.
Not only that, and not long after, there was a fight that broke out between Pat Maroon and Matt Martin. And Sorokin ended up playing for the remainder of the period. I guess Varlamov was a little uncomfortable after that play. But he did come back in the second period, so he was fine. But when I saw that play, I was very disappointed by the officiating. It was really just a stupid call. Point was literally shoved by Pelech into Varlamov, and they said that was goalie interference. I'm not sure where there's goalie interference there when your own player pushes another player into your own netminder. Like, that makes no sense.
Definitely.
The next one, Corey Perry was high sticked in Game 3. And there was a big gash on his nose where he needed 9 stitches. And in this game, we're gonna talk about referee Chris Lee for a bit here tonight. You're gonna hear that name pop up for the remainder of this topic. But Chris Lee completely missed this call. Corey Perry was high sticked, and there is a big gash across his nose. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was all over social media, but that was a nasty hit. What do you have to say about that?
You know, it's tragic how you could miss something like that when you turn around and see a guy bleeding profusely from his nose. And also the fact that he needed 9 stitches is just insult to injury that he didn't get a call from that. It's just absurd that you could miss something like that and even not maybe call it after or get some information from one of your linesmen or second referee to call it.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So the next one is game 4, where Edmondson slammed into William Carrier, into the boards. And again, Chris Lee was officiating this game with Dan O'Rourke. And it was just, again, just really dumb officiating by I think you said it was Dan O'Rourke that was by there, or was
I
it?
do believe he's number 9 in the
Yes,
referee's
he is.
uniform. So
Yes.
he
So,
was standing right there in the corner. Had to, from my perspective of watching it back, had to be looking directly at the play. So how you could miss that is beyond me. I understand not calling as many things in the playoffs, but stuff like this it needs to be called.
right. I get that, there's a certain extent you want your viewers to enjoy watching your content. But at the same time, when there's a penalty, you got to call it. You can't just let that slide. And I will tell you one thing, the refs back in round 2 and round 1, they were a lot more consistent. They were calling a lot of things, but they were, for the most part, calling the right things. So let's get back into it. Shea Weber, was cross-checked by Nosek into the boards. And then Nosek ended up striking him again. Where basically Weber kind of retaliated. He got mad, so he hit him, and then Nosek was like, screw you, and hit him back. They ended up getting a roughing, so there was a 4v4. But at the same time, they both at first got away with their boarding penalties and their cross-check penalties, which is ridiculous. They should not go uncalled. And the fact that they end up getting a roughing penalty instead of what they actually did, I don't, at that point, why even bother with that,
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just usually how it goes is refs don't get if refs miss the first penalty, they always get the retaliation. Right. In this scenario, they didn't even get the retaliation or the secondary retaliation. So it's just like, how many calls are you just going to let go by that before you actually put that arm up and put a guy in the box?
Right. If you want to read off the last 2, go ahead.
Yeah. So last 2 we got here is Braden McNabb punches Nick Suzuki in the face, which again, Chris Lee, same thing, was staring right at the play. Well, actually, Dan O'Rourke was staring at the play last time, but this time it's Chris Lee. And what it seems from the video is that McNabb just real quick sucker jabs Suzuki, and Chris Lee just kind of quickly looks away like he didn't see it, and then just is, I guess, shaking his head and going, nope, not a penalty. And that's wild. It was right in front of him. It's just a lot of after the play retaliation. And even after that, they didn't even let the 4 seconds left in that period play. He just standing behind the net saying, run the clock. And that was the end of that period.
Yep. And then finally, our last one was Kucherov getting cross-checked by Mayfield in game 6. And of course, it was right in front of Chris Lee. Again, Kucherov ended up leaving for the remainder of the game. I believe it was just after a couple of seconds, if not a minute, going by in the first period. And the Lightning ended up losing the game. So it was a really upsetting loss for the Tampa Bay Lightning that they couldn't even call that cross-check. And people, it was a little odd. You go on social media and everyone's saying that Kucherov got injured when he went to go check. I think was it Mayfield or who was, maybe it was Barzal. I can't remember.
I think it was Barzal the first time.
Yeah. And they said that he tried to, or he got injured from that, but I really think it was from the cross check by Mayfield. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I think that should have been called. And of course, with Chris Lee being so inconsistent this past round, it was not called.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the fact that you lose one of your top guys like that. I mean, obviously you should never call things based on a superstar or not. You call a fair game 100% of the time. But if you're just allowing a guy to get injured from that? I mean, you can't see it from the play. He does like kind of stumble a little bit. I think it was his lower back, but yeah, from that play, you could see he was definitely injured from that, and it was I wouldn't say very much a dirty play, but it could have been called.
I agree. So now let's move into our next topic, which is going to be talking about the statistics for each team player and who was the MVP for either each team or overall in round 3. So let's get right into it. The Tampa Bay Lightning, they are just a powerhouse team. And I mentioned that in our previous podcast. I have always seen them as a very powerful team, and they absolutely showed that power against the Islanders in round 3. We go back and we look at Vasilevsky. He had overall an average save percentage was a 0.94 or a 93.58%, which is pretty good. And it was the highest out of all of them, out of the other goalies in the series. Excluding, I mean, Leonard was basically the same, but he only played 2 games. So overall, for playing 7 games, Vasilevsky had a very good save percentage. Do you have to say anything about?
Yeah, I just the biggest thing I'm noticing from looking at these statistics is you can see in Varlamov as well as Fleury's statistics for save percentage. They are a couple games where they just dip down into the 800s. Like game 2, 0.852, and game 5, 0.853, or 0.813 actually. So even worse than that. And then if you look at Fleury as well in game 2, 0.87, and then the next game a 0.889, and then game 5 a 0.88. That right. In the playoffs, you don't want to be seeing your goalie dipping down to those kind of numbers, just because you know that at that point the consistency is very much lacking. And I think that's why at some points they were going back to Leonard, because in the 2 games he played, he did decently well, obviously, disregarding that little flip up in the Avalanche series first game. But game 4, 0.964, and game 6, 0.906. So pretty decent numbers. But yeah, just you'd never really expect that from Fleury. It was just that was a rough series for him.
Right. And you see, like you said, Vasilevsky literally only had 1 point where he hit into the 800s. His lowest was a 0.893. Same with Price. He only got that once, and it was a 0.867. And Price came in third in this sense, but he was barely lower than Varlamov, who had an average save percentage of a 0.93 or 92.63%, while Carey Price had a 92.38%. Going back to the Lightning, their power play dominated.
Electric.
Absolutely electric. They had 17 power play opportunities, which was the highest out of the rest of the teams. And they had 30% power play with goals, excuse me. So out of 17 of those, they made 5 goals, which is pretty good. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's good, because you're never going to get to that 100% mark, or if you're really good, you're hitting 90s. Like, that's crazy. But you're not, out of all of the other teams, that was the highest, while the Canadiens came in second place with a 19% power play with goals. Same thing. They had 11 power play opportunities, and they got 1, 2, 3 goals out of it. And then the Knights, though, they really just could not get anything on that power play. They had 15 opportunities. 15 opportunities. Zero goals with it. What do you have to say about that?
First off, let me just say, having a 30% power play average is absolutely astounding in the NHL. You rarely see that even in the regular season. So having that kind of consistency in the playoffs, no one's beating this Tampa Bay Lightning power play team. Absolutely not. I don't think Montreal even has a sliver of a chance to shut them down on the PK. But yeah, Vegas, something you really don't expect. And I think I think there definitely needs to be some tweaks in that power play unit, because going 0 for 4, 2 games out of the series is unacceptable. You need to have at least one of those go in the net to stand a chance in that series.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the players in round 3. Braden Point alone in this round had 7 points total. It was not the highest. The highest was Nikita Kucherov. He had 9 points total. But Braden Point was very consistent with his plays. He had 1 goal every game until game 7. He did not get anything in game 7. Nikita Kucherov in game 1, 1 assist. Game 2, 3 assists. Game 3, 1 assist. Game 4, 1 assist. Game 5, 3 assists. And then in game 6, like I said, he was unfortunately out for most of the game, but he had a hell of a round. That was crazy.
Yeah, let me just say, Braden Point is the biggest sleeper on this Tampa Bay Lightning team. I watched, I believe it was game 6, and this man, it was game 7 actually. And this man, I watched a couple shifts just trying to solo cam him. He can fly. I didn't realize how much he can actually just fly down the ice and blow by and create that opportunities for his other guys. It was absolutely absurd. I had no idea what was going on. I was like, who is that? I didn't realize he had that much speed in him. It was just so crazy. And then, yes, Stamkos is also producing, which they definitely need in this series, as well as Victor Hedman. I mean, they know he's a big time defenseman for them, but having him produce along with the other big guys on the team is phenomenal. In that, if they can keep that up, I think they may even, I'm not going to give my prediction early, but
yeah, right. And looking at the Islanders bench, at least the guys that we marked down, the highest, the guy that we have who had the most points was Matt Barzal with only 5 in the 7 games that he played, which is not bad, but it's kind of upsetting to see that he was really the only one producing things. So in game 1, he had 1 goal. Game 2, he had another goal. Game 3, he didn't get anything. Game 4, he had 1 goal. Game 5, no goals. Game 6, he had 2 assists. And then in game 7, just completely, that was it, done. So he had 5 points. Again, that's not bad for 7 games, but just could not compare with the players on the Lightning. What do you have to say about that?
oh God, I'm surprised this series went 7, honestly. I just,
agree.
from watching the games, the Islanders had nothing on the Lightning, and yet they still found a way. I guess that's just the theme of their team, is they find a way. But God,
Drake Bell.
Yeah, they did not deserve to be there, in my opinion. It was just,
no,
wow.
You have a center. You have Matt Barzal. He carried most of the team to the playoffs, as well as Varlamov. They both were stellar. And then you look at the rest of the Lightning players. Victor Hedman had 5 points, and he's a defenseman, right? You look at Alex Killorn. He's a left wing. Again, 5 points. Anthony Cirelli, a center, 5 points. So you look at these guys and you're comparing them, and you can't. You literally cannot compare the Islanders to the Lightning. You can't, because the Lightning are just so much more powerful, and they really showed that in this round. The
Lightning are just so much more deep as well. Like, you look at this lineup, I've been over it before. I went over it last podcast as well. The depth they have in this lineup, like, I think I don't know exactly their lineups, but I'm pretty sure Braden Point sometimes does play down to the third line. And having a guy like Braden Point play that low in your lineup, I don't know what to say. You can't compete with that kind of depth. You can't go out and roll those four lines and expect to do damage, because you can try and wear out the first and second lines, but if those third and fourth are rolling, they can carry an entire team.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's move in now to the Knights and the Canadiens. Again, the Knights just they struggled a bit. Not as bad as, I mean, they're pretty much tied. They had, at least with the guys that we marked down, uh with the Knights and the Islanders. The Islanders, for our total points, had 15 with the guys that we marked down, while the Knights had 15. Uh, but the Canadians that we marked down, we had about 7 of them. They had 21 for their grand total. And the only one, or the only 2 people, I should say, that really, really produced for the Knights, William Karlsson, who is a center, who got 4 points total, and Shea Theodore, who is a defenseman, 4 points again, which is just baffling. It's just crazy seeing these defensemen actually step up and start playing more offensively.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the theme of the NHL these days, is having more offensive defensemen in your lineup. But there's a difference between having an offensive defenseman who can create chances and having your defenseman be one of your top point getters, like this series.
Absolutely.
There's no comparison to that, and I don't think you want that whatsoever in your lineup.
A
Like,
little
William Karlsson
embarrassing.
is a very good player, don't get me wrong. Yeah, it is slightly embarrassing when Shea Theodore, you're expecting him to go out every night and get you a point. I think
Yeah.
something definitely needs to be adjusted a little bit in this Knights team. They are
Oh,
still a
absolutely.
very solid team, but there are some adjustments that need to be made, and possibly the lineup or the strategies that they are using.
Absolutely. I think over the summer there are going to be a lot of roster moves going on the Knights bench. But let's look at the Canadians. I mean, there were, like I said, there weren't a lot of points that we really noticed coming from them. Like I said, for the grand total with the guys we marked down, they had 21. But let's talk about Cole Caulfield. I'm sorry, I've got to bring him up. I know
Mm-hmm.
it's getting a little tiring hearing that name, because he's been mentioned everywhere. But seriously, this kid is on fire.
He's
And
on something different right
yeah,
now.
no, seriously, he had 1 goal in the first game, 1 assist in the second, 1 goal in the third game, 0 in the fourth. And then for the final 2 games, he picks up a goal. So in the end, he had 5 points, and only 1 was an assist out of all of them. So they were all goals for the most part, which is, I'd say, pretty impressive. Same thing with Nick Suzuki, excuse me. He wasn't really producing much in the first 2 games. He got 0 points for the first 2 games. But once it hit game 3, he started gaining a little more momentum. But instead of getting goals, he got more assists. So he got, in the end, he got 1 assist in game 3, 1 assist in game 4, 1 goal in game 5, and 2 assists in game 5. So I think these 2 are definitely, you need to watch out for them. They are 2 very impressive players that the Canadians have, and they're young. They are young.
Oh yeah, and the fact that Cole Caulfield dropped so low in the draft as well, and that the Canadians were just able to pick him up so easily, like, just wow. Same thing with Suzuki. Well, he didn't go. I think, wasn't Caulfield a second round pick?
I can't
I'm
remember,
not sure.
honestly.
I believe he was around second round, but Nick Suzuki was a 13th overall pick. So the fact that these 2 drop below so many radars on teams, it just shows how well the Canadians scouting staff is
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
finding these young talents and making sure they get them in the draft.
Absolutely. I think this team in the near future is They're going to pick up more young players, and I think they're going to go pretty far. I mean, right now, look at them. They're in the Stanley Cup final. I give these guys a lot of credit. So overall, let's go back to the overall picture. Who would you say is the MVP? And you can either do team or you can do overall
All right.
of the round.
Easy first pick for me. For the New York Islanders Tampa Bay series, Tampa Bay power play is the MVP all the way. Having that kind of production, that kind of consistency, lethal. It's lethal. You can't really compete with that. I'm not even going to give the Islanders an MVP. They didn't really have one. The fact that they brought it to 7 is just astounding. And then you're
better thank Varlamov.
Yeah, you're gonna keep hearing this name, and for good reason, for a very good reason. Cole Caulfield is the MVP of that series.
Of the Montreal and Vegas Golden Knights series.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't. I'm kind of surprised. I have to say Carey Price, honestly. I think he did. I really think he carried this team. And I'm not even just saying for this round. I'm saying, yeah, Carey. I'm just saying overall in this playoff this year. It's seriously, this guy has been crazy. He wants the cup. You can tell right after he saw himself drowning against the Maple Leafs. He said, nope, I can't let this happen. And he came right back and he blew through the series. I'm gonna have to say that he's my MVP for that.
Carey Price was definitely a close second for me, but I just think without the offensive production, Carey Price's work means nothing.
Okay, that's
fair. That's just always how it's been with Montreal. Is you have Carey Price, he can't win you games if you don't have the scoring to back him up. And the addition of Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and as well as having veteran leadership in Eric Staal and Corey Perry and Shea Weber, it gives you a very solid chance on offense, as well as having a lockdown 10D on the back end.
Right. But here's the thing. So we're going to look at the numbers now. The average goal for the first period for the Canadiens was a 0.7, which is not even 1. It's close to 1. You can round up to 1, but it's not 1. So it wasn't a guarantee that they get a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the second period, it was a 1. So there's a high chance they're going to score at least 1 goal in the second period. And the third, nope, doesn't seem like it. But then you look at the Knights, right? You go to the Knights, and the average goal in the first period was a 0.3. They're not producing anything in the first period. That's a big yikes. And you know why? It's because I genuinely think it was because of Price. And I also think it was because of it was the offensive play, because like I said, it's almost close to 1. It's not 1, but it's close. And then you look at the second period, and there's a 0.7 in the second period. So the same as the first period for the Canadiens. So it's not guaranteed that they're going to score, but it's close. And then in the third period, it was a 1. So their chances started getting higher. I genuinely think that a lot of it has to do with Carey Price, in my opinion, because you just compare the two. Look at the Knights they're most likely getting a goal in the third period, while the Canadiens have a 0.3 chance. So for the most part, they're not getting anything in the third period.
Knights, flip it.
Huh?
You said Canadiens, you meant Knights.
Okay, sorry. So
just correcting. Sorry, bye-bye.
Thank you for correcting me. But yeah, so in that period, they're not getting anything. They're not producing anything in the third period. So that means the Knights are going to most likely get that point. But it's only 1. They're not going to come back. You look at the other periods, They got 0.3, 0.7. So they're most likely not scoring anything. I think it was because of Carey Price. I think he was holding up the fort really well. So, like I said, I stand by my point by saying that Carey Price was the MVP.
Yeah, like I said, he was definitely a close second.
All right.
Do we want to move on to the Cup final here?
Yes, let's go into it. The Lightning versus the Canadiens.
Let me just get my thing in here quick. Congratulations to the Canadiens. Holy shit. The fact that you guys are even here right now, that is astounding. You have made some amazing moves again in Corey Perry, Eric Stahl, Tyler Toffoli. You have some great veterans as well as some stellar stud young guys who are just putting in some work for you. And Carey Price has found some motivation. He is kicking. I am really proud that these Canadians have come from being absolute dog shit from 2011 onward. Well, 2012 onward, technically. And now it's just they're doing really well. Unfortunately, the Lightning are going to kick their ass, but
you think so?
I'm giving my prediction right now, Lightning in 4.
Really?
It's a clean sweep. After we're recording this the day after game 1. After watching game 1,
hold on. Let's before we get into what happened last night, let's use some statistics from the previous rounds that we have. So I only have round 2 and round 3, unfortunately, but let's kind of make some predictions based off of that. So I'm sorry. I have to say, I'm going to say the underdogs, the Canadiens. I think that Price can pull through. I really think he can. And honestly,
here's the thing, though.
I think these youngsters, though, I really think that they're gonna pull through and they're gonna get hungry. They're gonna want a cup. And I really think they're gonna pull through and make it. I know that the power play, the Lightning have a more powerful power play. I mean, the Canadiens have a pretty steady one. The goaltending, for me, it's mostly tied. I feel like
I agree with that 100%.
I feel like I said, with Tampa Bay playing the Islanders, like we said, the Islanders didn't have much going for them in that round. They really did not. And I think Price was in a more difficult situation. There were bigger guys on the Knights that were more dangerous than the people you're going to see on the Islanders. So he's used to those big names. He's used to that kind of play. And maybe the Knights just didn't have a good round overall. Maybe they were just playing like crap. But I think Price just needs to adjust a little bit. He was used to the Knights play, but I think he's going to get a little more adjusted this next game. And I think he can pull through and do it. I think he's hungry enough for it too.
Yeah. So, all right. Obviously, we all know the power play statistic for the Lightning already. Don't need to go over that again. Price and Vasilevsky, best goalies in the world. 2 of the best goalies in the world facing off against each other. They completely cancel out. Price used to be, maybe he will prove me wrong. I really hope he does. I love Pricer. I used to emulate my game after Pricer. But anyway, Vasilevsky is the up-and-coming Carey Price, meaning he's absurdly good, tall, athletic, has great fundamentals and technique, and he's just got that consistency as well that Price had when he was younger as well. And, yeah, Price still here. He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. He's still kicking very well, just like Fleury is, at least in the regular season. Not about these playoffs. Yikes. But yeah, so goaltending wise, that's an even matchup. You can't give it to anyone based on that. And I'm not even giving it to the Lightning based on the power play either, although that is a decent factor to consider. I have to keep going off of the depth. Their depth is just so absurd.
I know
that
I really don't want them to win, though.
The Canadiens just cannot stand a chance. Like, let me go look at their lineup real quick. Like, even from
I
yesterday's
get it.
game, or
I
well,
get it.
Monday's game.
I
Like I know, but I'm just doing this I'm doing this for the listener right here.
No, I know. I'm not saying I said I was gonna say I get it. They have a lot more depth, but I for one thing, I don't want them to win. I'm sorry. I don't want to
Yeah.
see that team win back to back, especially when they're over their salary cap. Um
Like
I'm sorry. I had to
I'm
bring it
looking
up.
at this. I'm looking at this team, and it's
Yeah, go
just,
ahead.
yeah. Again, I can't really see any flaws. The only player that I'm looking at, and I'm like, he's okay. Is R. Colton? Who is this? Ryan Colton? Ross Colton? My bad. Sorry, Colton. Didn't mean to fuck up your name there. Yeah, like I'm looking at these. I recognize all these names. I know these names are good, and then I look at the Canadian side. Josh Anderson is okay. Philip Denault, Paul Byron, uh, Arturi Lehkonen. Um, yeah, like
He
there's
was pretty
names
good
that,
too.
yeah, they're good. They're definitely good, but they don't compare. That's what I'm getting at. Is you look at those names and then you look at the names below them, they don't compare. And that is mainly my reasoning for the Lightning in 4.
That's fair. I totally get that. And like I said, I may be a little biased by saying that I don't want the Tampa Bay Lightning to win, but I I feel like there's this spark waiting to come out of Price again. Like I said, he felt it when he was playing against the Leafs. I think it's just going to come out again. Um, I really think he deserves it. I think he wants it to. But anyways, let's move into last night's game. So now we can talk a little bit about that. The first goal, it was a beautiful tip in. I think you saw that, didn't you, Preston?
Yeah, that was amazing tip in. Looked
Yeah.
really nice. A lot of those goals in that game are very well placed and very well. I guess I want to say drawn out, but I'm sure they're not fully set plays, but they were just beautiful goals.
Yeah, Chernak, he had a beautiful tip in the first period, and then Cheria ended up having a good opportunity, but he hit the post. Unfortunately, that was early in the second. There were some beautiful saves by Carey Price. Especially when he robbed Stamkos. I think he was in the circle in the early second. I think it was to the left of him, I believe. There was a big opportunity for Shea Weber halfway through the second, but Vasilevsky partially made the save. And in the end, it kind of came out of the glove and it was behind Weber, so he couldn't get the rebound on it. Chariot took a shot at the point in the late second. It looked like it hit Sorelli's skate as well as McDonough's skate, and it went right past Vasilevsky's right skate. So a lot of skates in there, just like kind of like tic-tac-toe or a pinball machine, I should say. Kucherov took a shot from the left of Price. It went high. Chariot tried to swat at it right in front of Price, but Palat took the puck out of the air past Price's arm and shoulder, and it went in. And then off the draw to the left of Price, Kucherov moved toward the middle and shot it right past Price's glove. So at this point, the score is 4-1. A little over a minute left in the third. The Lightning were on the power play because of a roughing call against Joel Edmondson on Gord. Stamkos was to the right of Price in the circle, and he barely made it. Price almost made the save. You could literally see it just skims it looked like it just skimmed past his sweater. And the Lightning won it 5-1. But here's the thing to keep in mind that happened last night. And I know it's not a big name, but honestly, I think he was a pretty big name for this past series so far. Joel Armia, he's a right wing. He was out because of COVID-19 protocols. He was skating in warmups. It was at first he was not in, and then I guess yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon they released him from the COVID-19 protocols, and he went to warmups, but he did not play. Now, here's the thing. Armia has 8 points in 17 games in the playoffs. 2 of them were shorthanded goals. So that means that they were shorthanded. The other team was on the power play, and he has 2 of them in the power play. So was he a key player for the power play? I actually read a couple articles saying that the Canadiens actually missed him. They need him on that for that penalty kill. I don't know if you know anything about this, Preston, but if you have any words, feel free to jump in.
God, this game was just a stomping overall. I mean, like, I don't think this game even really affected my thought process as to, like, okay, maybe a little bit. I was initially thinking Lightning in 5. I was thinking that Montreal would pull at least one game off, but yeah, after tonight, I'm not liking the chances for them. I don't want a short series. No one ever wants a short series, but I'm being very realistic here. It has to be Lightning in 4. I'm sorry. It's just
that hurts a little bit.
No matter how well the Canadiens play, I think the Lightning are just too big, too deep, and too skilled to get beaten by this team.
Over the salary cap.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Now.
I'm kidding. But I genuinely think that he was a big factor it's too bad he couldn't play last night. Let me see if I could take a look at his stats back in round 2. Round 2, he had 4 points. 3 points, 2 goals, 1 assist, and most of them were in game 3, or actually all of them were in game 3. But I genuinely think that they missed him. I think he was, especially if you go back, if that was only round 2 data where he had 3 points, you look at round 3, he only had 1 goal. So where'd the other points come from? That's got to be from round 1 against the Maple Leafs. So I think who knows, maybe he'll come back and he might actually be a big help for the Canadiens who need it right now. The next point I want to bring up was Gallagher's bloody head after being slammed into the ice by Sergachev. Did you see that?
I did see that. I saw many photos of his head, and honestly, what a trooper. I love Brendan Gallagher. He's such a grindy player that you just have to love him.
He's definitely a mutt. But I think that was, I don't know. I know that Gallagher went after Sergachev. But should Sergachev get fined for slamming his head into the ice without a helmet? Should he get I don't know if it should have been fined or if it should have been
if you're finding Shea Weber $5,000 for slashing Kucherov.
Yeah, which I was going to bring up.
I think you have to find. Well, I beat you to it, bitch. Anyway, I think you have to find him for that.
No, I absolutely agree. Which, by the way, if you did not see the slash that Shea Weber did, I'm sorry, Kucherov flopped. That was
it was a little slap.
That was
on the
a
wrist.
dive. That was a big dive there. I'm sorry. He should not have been fined for that. That was one of the upsetting things that I saw last night. But yeah, I agree. I think that if Shea Weber got fined for that, I think that Sergachev should get something. I don't know if a suspension would really do anything. I don't know.
I don't think suspend. I
think a fine. It should be a fine. I think it should be a fine. Any other thoughts on game 1 or the overall series, other than you said Lightning in 4?
God, I don't really have anything. This series is just gonna be a wash. That's all I can really say. There's nothing really else. I think if you want to say your last thing, but I think we should move into, there were some award announcements today that I think are very important.
Oh geez, I haven't even looked at those, to be honest. If you want to do that, go ahead. But all I'm going to say is I think the Canadiens have it in them. I think they can pull through. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead if you have any of the data on that. Go ahead. I haven't gotten the chance to.
All right. There have been 4 awards announced today.
Only 4?
Yeah, only 4, because there were a couple announced, I believe, last week or sometime around last week. But
Yep.
Marc-Andre Fleury won the Vezina, so congratulations to him on that.
Deserved.
I did not see the voting on that though. And then for the Calder, everyone knows who was going to win the Calder. Kirill Kaprizov, absolute stud this year. He probably had the most points on that Wild team this year, or close to the top. He was just absolutely amazing. And watching him, he seems very comfortable. I know he is a little older already coming into the league, but looked very comfortable, very, very much just know what he had to do there. It wasn't any adjusting period, really. The Norris Trophy went to Adam Fox of the Rangers. Very interesting choice. There were a lot of candidates. I know Charlie McAvoy was also a candidate for this, as well as
of course. Your
was
bees.
it Pietrangelo or I'm not exactly sure.
I think it was
Pietrangelo. Yeah, it might have been Pietrangelo because he had a pretty decent year. So yeah, two young guys were in the running this year. I think young defensemen are definitely becoming the move as their puck moving skills and just overall game IQ are getting much better. This is the one I was referencing the most that I wanted to talk about. Connor McDavid sweeps the Hart.
Yeah.
100 of the first place votes went to him.
Yeah.
No one had a chance. It was almost as good or almost like comparable to a unanimous MVP in basketball, Stephen Curry's unanimous MVP, because I don't think there's ever been a time where there have been 100 votes for a single person to get the Hart.
Yeah, it's actually crazy.
I was very shocked when I saw that statistic. And you want to know what's even more shocking? David Pastrnak had 1 vote.
Oh my God.
He had 1 vote entirely. Brad Marchand had more votes than him. And Marchand also made it on the first All-Star team. So congrats to him. As well as obviously Connor McDavid, Mitch Marner, Cale Makar, Adam Fox, and Andrei Vasilevsky. So a big mixed bag, but congratulations to those guys. And those are some interesting awards this year.
Absolutely. Congratulations to those who won. I think for the most part, the people who were selected deserved it. So especially Mr. Connor McDavid, I think he did a magnificent job with the team, despite them getting kicked out of the playoffs the first round. Still, I think that, I mean, I guess that's the only thing I have to say about him as far as that, but he doesn't have much of a team. They were heavily relying on him. So it's too bad. But that is all we have for today. So we'll see you next time on our next podcast, and that'll be most likely after the series, and we will talk a little bit more about the Stanley Cup final and the winner. So until then, see you guys later, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Later.
Bye. Again, thank you so much for tuning in and for your support. We hope you enjoyed the playoff discussions. If you enjoyed this episode and would love to see more content, be sure to follow us on Spotify at Face the Puck Podcast. If you would like to join us in our future discussions, please follow and DM us on Instagram at Face the Puck News. Stay tuned for more episodes. Bye!